Hello and welcome back to Bricking It. This week we are returning to the room of requirements, which you can see has had its door removed and a little bit of grey detailing up the top has been replaced by just this single Hogwarts crest tile. Everything else is largely the same, just a simple 1 stud wide 3 walled box, basic bricks throughout, using some panels to take up the space. And this simplified design is because I'm going to use it for more than just the room of requirements. Got a simple floor. I haven't completely abandoned the door, because it's now a separate module. So we can use this space to display the exterior of the room. So I literally just tore this out of the module. It's exactly as it was when it was part of the module. Did flip the doors round because I didn't need the recessed handles anymore, so of course the doors can open and close as needed. And a row of cheese plates on top just make it look like it's a natural outgrowth from the building. So obviously I can have my corridor without or with the door. So let's have a look at how this new design interacts with our current modules. Starting with our book 5 use for the room of requirements, which was of course the Dada training room. The fireplace now doesn't have to fight with the doorway, so it gives us a bit more space each side for the mirrors. It's made an extra set for this side. They don't need to go all the way to the ground because our blackboard's in the way, obscuring that. And the benefit of the thinner back wall is that these pillars can now be displayed both ways as needed. Of course, in book 6 we come into the room of hidden things. Malfoy and the vanishing cabinet. The junk largely covered up where the door was anyway, so we're not losing too much interest. And here we can see added sherry bottles in our standard junk room. The book 7 camp is probably the module that suffers the most from the door not being there in terms of visual interest, but you see, once we add all of the camping detritus and the house banners, obviously along with the hammocks from the pillars, there's still plenty to keep the eye entertained, even without any minifigs in the scene. And our other book 7 scene, Fiendfire, barely noticeable change, seeing as all of that fire was obscuring the entire doorway anyway. Lovely. Let's look at some new modules now. So our first new module is a book 1 module, and that's going to be Fluffy Encounter. We've got Fluffy here behind the doorway. Nice simple build using just a 2x2x2 slope and a couple of palisade bricks to build the legs. And then some ball joints holding the heads in place. Got some thicker supports up the top just to help depend this from the roof. Just added one of these stone torches. Once we get a couple of minifigs in the scene, see them trying to close the door on Fluffy. For our lower level, I'm just going to reappropriate this shield, pop onto this arch support. Now this helps us just to distribute the weight for the upper module once we've put it back in, so it's not all hanging off of those 2 side arms, and it's supporting a little more nicely. You can see it's a lot taller than a module would normally be because it can be holding a much taller piece of scenery. Mirror of Erised is quite a tall build, doesn't usually fit in an 8x8. With the addition of Harry and Dumbledore, we've got our Mirror of Erised room. Moving on to the Chamber of Secrets. Obviously the writing on the wall is the single-use module for this book. If you see one of my old castle walkthroughs, see the module pieces that the graffiti is on. I just ripped straight out of that old park because it was an old 8x8. I just duplicated the same little piece of scenery on the other side. and with the stone torch in the middle, it gives us our writing on the wall scene. Down below we're going to need to borrow our vanishing cabinet to depict a scene that's not in the movies, is in the books, and actually gives us a lot more background information as to how some things happened in later books. I'm going to use one of these tilt tables on the bottom, just so I can put the vanishing cabinet into the display at an angle. Now this scene depicts the time where Harry was in trouble, and he was being told off by Filch. And having previously been talking to Nearly Headless Nick, Nick rushed off to find Peeves to cause a distraction so Harry could get away. And the choice was to push over the vanishing cabinet in a classroom just above Filch's office, causing a huge distraction, a great deal of noise, and giving Harry the chance to get out of trouble. We see that in with our Chamber of Secrets warning above. It gives us quite a nice display for year 2. Of course, the vanishing cabinet didn't spend a whole year being pushed over. For most of the time it just sat innocently in a corridor, maybe with a suit of armour next to it. We get a couple of nice hallways that we can add a bit of interest to our Hogwarts with. Giving some space for students to walk around. Just make the castle a little bit more entertaining and busy. We can even display Mrs. Norris and maybe a spider. So the Prisoner of Azkaban doesn't really require a module, because most of the action takes place off-site. So I decided to add in something I've literally been trying to add into my Hogwarts since day one, and that's a moving staircase. So I made up this pair of balconies, and they're entirely suspended from the unit above, using these archway pieces with a pair of these dark tan window inserts just masquerading as doors, just so these arches don't lead into a brick wall. And these just slide on again either side of that Hogwarts badge. To extend the visual interest up and connect the bottom to the top, got a suit of armour on a pedestal, and then at the bottom of the unit have our moving staircase. Once we bring our balconies in, you can see how our staircase can rotate from one round to the other. So it gives us a nice sense of height, uses the full height of the module. Can add a few minifigs in. May have a little crack at redesigning the stairs just a little bit to put a couple of studs on one of the stairs, just so we can have some minifigs moving up and down. Likewise, I want to change some of those plain tiles in the lower hallway for jumpers, just so we can get a bit more life in the castle and not have to worry about things being knocked over every time I nudge the shelf or interact with another one of the modules. So there we go, that's all of the new modules I've got so far. But as far as book 4 goes, there is one other candidate to be a module in this room. So of course the single-use module for the Goblet of Fire is the Prefect's bathroom. I recently made this new version for my Hogwarts. So it's just half the height as all the others are. And I'm thinking about turning it into a module to go into this room. Even though it's a permanent part of the castle, we don't really interact with it in any other books. Let me know in the comments on your thoughts on turning this into one of the new modules. So this design is working fairly well. These gaps were originally 6 long, because that's all I needed, and 6 is the standard brick size, but it does leave us with 1 stud at the back. And that means that all of these connections for these upper modules have to be stepped off on an offset of 1 stud. That's fine, as you can see they all fit, but if you do lift them out, they can easily break the modules. That should never happen when they're being put in, but as these are all just a offset connection of one stud contact, it's not the strongest part in the world, so we could really do with that extra bit of support. So I think I just might move that arm length all the way back to the back wall so I can put connections all the way across the top of the module. There we go. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at the new modules for the room of requirement. Not a lot of building, but having looked at the analytics on my channel, it appears most people will just want to look at the end result and they're not really that bothered about seeing the builds happen. So I thought I'd just show you the results. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave us a like. If you'd like to see more Hogwarts build videos, then please subscribe to Bricking It. Bye bye.